Okay, we're gonna see how this works. I knew it was gonna kick me off eventually. Really sorry about that. Hopefully this works. I don't know if I'm live twice right now. It's still saying that I'm live on this deal, so I'm really confused by this. Okay, Judy's in here. Great, we got Judy. I'm gonna wait a couple minutes, try to get some other people back in here. Hopefully this works. Tammy's back here. Really sorry. I'm gonna share that article that I was trying to share. I had a feeling that that was gonna happen. Sorry about that. So I figured out what happened. The good news is I know why it was trying to kick me off of Facebook. I figured it out. So I'm working with a freelancer who is actually in Malaysia. So that freelancer, at the same time, they tend to work while we sleep. So at the same time, while I was on Facebook Live, that freelancer in Malaysia logged into my Facebook account, and Facebook security was screaming at me saying, "We've noticed an unusual login attempt. Was this you?" I had to confirm that it was me. They kicked me off the live video. So here we are, everybody. I can't even remember what was the question that I was answering. Let's see here. Yeah, eggs. Somebody was asking me about eggs. So I wrote this article called "In Defense of Eggs." You definitely want to check out "In Defense of Eggs." I love the article. Spent some time on it, and I thought it was great. Eggs are not going to kill you. Eggs are not bad for your cholesterol. They are literally like one of the most perfect foods on planet Earth. Like, for those of you that don't like organ meats, I talk a lot about organ meats. Eggs are another great choice for you. Eggs are just a fantastic choice. They're like the perfect food in terms of like fat to protein ratio. Micronutrients are through the roof. They're loaded with choline. Choline's super important, right? So they're just fantastic. Eggs are like one of the most perfect superfoods on planet Earth. So I highly recommend eggs. Don't be afraid of eggs at all, okay? Now, what I want you to understand too is if you are eating a lot of eggs, this particular question was asking about eating eggs raw, like putting them in a smoothie. You want to make sure, now this person said farm fresh eggs, so I hope you're actually getting them from a farm. If you're eating them raw, you want to make sure that they are pasture raised. You don't want to buy like the cheapest eggs in Walmart that are just like bleached white and come in a little white styrofoam container and eat those raw. Don't do that. If you're eating eggs raw, you want to make sure they're pasture raised. Ignore a lot of the BS marketing gimmicks like free range, cage free, raised outdoors, vegetarian fed diet, right? There's all these crazy things. You need to get pasture raised eggs if you're going to eat them raw. But I have raw eggs quite often. Like, I have no problem with raw eggs. I'll even do, it sounds weird sometimes, but I'll throw like in like egg whites or egg yolk, depending on how I'm feeling, in like a bulletproof coffee, and just kind of zap it with like half a tablespoon of butter, half a tablespoon of MCT, maybe even some collagen protein, and maybe an egg in there, like, to make it nice and frothy. Yeah, eggs are totally great. And I think raw eggs are great too. Like, sometimes I'll cook ground beef and I crack a bunch of egg yolks on the ground beef and just mix it up and put it on a plate. So the eggs are still like runny, like the egg yolk is still runny. It kind of works as like a condiment for the ground beef. It's just delicious, right? So I do eat a lot of raw egg yolks, yes. Eggs are a big part of my Clovis journey. I have my own chickens. Fantastic. There you go. Wonderful. Literally all that's in my fridge right now is eggs, bacon, and butter. Beautiful. Is there any type of creamer I can put in my coffee? Almond milk? Anything? Yes, that's all on my approved foods list. So if you go to iamclovis.com/start again and get your free trial for the Clovis membership and download the approved foods list, I actually have actual products in there of the almond milks and stuff. Now, again, everybody loves to bring all these products to my attention. Guys, there's no way on planet Earth I can vet every single product that you have in your grocery store. Look around your grocery store. There's no way for me to do it. So the brands that I recommend are the ones that I have vetted. If I have given you a brand that I'm suggesting, that means I know the manufacturer behind that brand. I know how they're making their food products. Literally, that's how deep I go when I suggest these things to you. So some people are like, what about XYZ almond milk? And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know. There's no way for me to know, right? Like, you can look at like Silk almond milk is garbage. You don't want Silk almond milk. I'll tell you that right now. Califia Farms, great. Malk Organics, MALK, great, right? Actually, Laird Superfoods, LAIRD, has just one unsweetened creamer powder that seems to be pretty good. But it's not the best tasting thing in the world. It's just unsweetened. And all his other products, I believe, have cane sugar. Maybe it's like 2 grams of cane sugar. Not the end of the world. But yeah, cream. I mean, honestly, if you can get it from good sources, like even just like heavy cream is not the end of the world. But I mean, I'm talking a splash, right? You're better off just either learning to like black coffee or just doing barely a splash of like heavy cream. That's got to be it, right? Just something very small. All right, what do we got here? Let's see. All right, so my AMA, this even, it closed my notes. It closed everything. What a bummer. That was really weird. So let's see here. We got a few minutes left. Let's see what we want to jump on. Questions, eggs. Oh, okay, red meat. This one's very interesting. So the red meat thing I want to talk about because the question was, friend of hers has been in the hospital with constipation. The question was, does somebody need to transition into a diet where they're adding red meat in? I would argue no. It might be necessary, but it shouldn't be necessary. So here's the thing. I have this, big challenge that I issue to everybody where I'm just like, if you can go out and find me one single study linking causation, not correlation, linking causation between red meat and any negative health consequence, I will give you my house. I'll sign it to you, free and clear. You can have my house. I've been telling people that forever, right? But I still have my house. Really interesting. So that's the thing. There is nothing wrong with red meat. So the funny thing that happens in these conversations with people is if you're talking to somebody about nutrition and they say things like red meat causes cancer, all that red meat will kill you, all that saturated fat in red meat will give you heart disease. This person doesn't know it, but they might as well be screaming the words, I genuinely have no idea what I'm talking about right now. I have not researched this. I'm parroting, I'm talking out of my ass, and I've never read a single study on red meat ever. I maybe read a BuzzFeed article from a vegan blogger once upon a time that my Aunt Doris shared on her Facebook page. That's really what the person is saying to you when they're warning you about red meat. So red meat is basically the perfect food for human digestion. Should be the easiest thing for you to digest. So a good example that I give of this is when people have colostomy bags. When people have colostomy bags and they switch to a carnivore diet, that colostomy bag only ever has liquid in it. Only. That's it. Just liquid. Now, when you have somebody in a colostomy bag and they're eating a bunch of vegetables, it's constantly clogged. It's clogged, it has plant matter in it. If you eat corn, you see corn in the toilet. Eat a bunch of vegetables, see a bunch of vegetables in the toilet. Eat a bunch of seeds, see a bunch of seeds in the toilet, okay? You're not digesting these things properly. The idea that we need to load up on vegetables to improve digestion is a myth. That is a myth, period, right? So this person that's dealing with constipation would actually be much better off reducing their vegetable and fiber content significantly and eating more red meat. And I promise you that constipation problem will probably go away. So this person said in the remarks that when this person's sent home from the hospital, the doctors tell them to avoid red meat and eat more fruit. That's because doctors are not nutritionists. These doctors have no idea what they're talking about. I would argue that this person should do the exact opposite of what that doctor told them to do and eat far less vegetables and eat far more red meat, and they will be going on a regular basis before they know it, 100%, okay? I'm telling you. Stephanie, I highly recommend learning to love black coffee because every time I try to do heavy cream, it's always terrible. Yeah, I won't touch heavy cream either. I really won't. There's no reason for it. My gut hates dairy, which makes me sad, but I'd rather skip those bubble guts. Yeah, I don't miss dairy whatsoever. I will use grass-fed butter. I do like grass-fed butter. It seems to work fine with me. But again, I'm not like a big bulletproof coffee guy, like put 14 grams of grass-fed butter, like a full tablespoon in my coffee. I'm not going to do that. I literally will cut the butter with a steak knife. It'll be like 4 or 5, maximum 7 grams of grass-fed butter that I'll put in coffee when I do that. And the reason why I know that is because I actually weigh it on a food scale. Yes, I do. So I am that guy. Because I'm not going to just put tablespoons and tablespoons of butter in my coffee, particularly if I'm somebody who cares about my body composition, right? You can't just endlessly dump tablespoons of fat. I've talked to you guys about the basics of fat loss and everything. You know how this works by now, right? You can't just do this keto thing where you're going to eat 90% of your calories from fat nonstop and just expect to lose body fat. It's not going to work that way. So you got to be really careful with what you add and don't add, right? Even nutritionists don't know what they're talking about most times. Yeah, people forget that registered dietitians, Diana Rogers and I talk about this all the time. Diana's a registered dietitian and will tell you straight up that 99.9% of what she learned was plant-based bullshit. It's all propaganda. So the registered dietitian, the reason why registered dietitians are the only ones that can prescribe nutrition is because they're under the same blanket education system of doctors, right? They're learning the same garbage nutrition the doctors learn. The doctors learn 20 hours of it over their entire medical career, and the registered dietitians get it hammered in their head nonstop. It's even worse. I once heard this amazing quote that I thought was so funny. It was like the American Dietetics Association, the American Diabetics Association is, I can't remember what they said, is one of the #1 causes for diabetes in the country. Literally, the information that they give is like causing diabetes straight up. So you have to understand the nutritionists, the registered dietitians, they do not know what they're talking about. The more educated they are, the more educated they are in traditional medical academia, the more screwed they are and the more likely they are to hurt you with their information. I promise you that. There's a reason why people got to go to a random musician in Nashville to learn how to get healthy when their doctors have been trying to help them for decades. That's not lost on me that that's ridiculous. That's the definition of injustice. I wish it wasn't that way. Shouldn't be that way, right? It's crazy. All right, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, there's one deeply personal question here, but I think I'm gonna do a Just Justin episode. I think I'm gonna have to do a Just Justin episode on this because I've been getting a lot of personal questions because of the way the Facebook Live. I go Facebook Live every morning, or at some point during the day. I try to in the Clovis Academy, facebook.com/group/Clovis Academy, and I've been talking about some personal stuff. So this person actually asked me, I'm single, I'm 33, I'm single. I'm a homeowner. I own 4 different companies now. I work out, 4 or 5 times a week. I cook all my own meals. I spend a lot of time with my family. I don't date much, and I don't care to, and I don't believe in traditional marriage. So there, I said it. But yeah, there was a question about this from another fellow entrepreneur who travels a lot and is super fulfilled. People really can't understand this idea of you just being fulfilled as your own person. And there are a lot of people out there. What I said this morning in the group was that I really think that love is sold to us in America as we're sold codependency. We're taught toxic codependency, and we're taught that is love, but it's not love. So I think literally less than 1% of the population, I would say, in America actually understands this concept of not being codependent, which makes it really tricky for those of us who do not have codependency issues, right? It's really tricky, but that comes with a lot of work. There's a lot of work here. So you guys let me know if you want to hang out here for a couple minutes. We can kind of dive into this topic if you would like to, or I can save this. I can do a Just Justin episode. Let me see. I'll read you the question. It says, I'm a busy entrepreneur in my 30s and I don't date for many reasons. I'm not against marriage at all, but I also never want to be codependent. My life is very busy and full. I constantly travel all over and I am very independent. I get loads of sad looks and suggestions from others regarding me being single. How do you tell those who care about you that not everyone needs to be in a relationship to be happy? Amazing. I think I'm gonna dive into this here quick for a minute because we got cut off, so I lost a few minutes of that little Facebook thing. So to answer your question, I don't dive into this with people. This is one of the only areas in my life where I will kind of white lie. I don't know how much content anyone here has consumed of mine, but I don't lie. I have an actual philosophy on lying that I've adopted from Sam Harris, who has a book called Lying. That's a great read. I think that even little white lies are quite toxic, so I don't think anybody should lie to anybody ever, even when you're trying to protect their feelings or whatever. Radical honesty is something that I think all people should adopt, and I think the world would be a much better place if we did adopt radical honesty. So, but this is the one place where I will kind of skirt around the whole truth when people ask me like, well, why are you single? Guy like you got all these companies and you travel the world and you're a musician. Oh my God, you're a professional musician too. Like, how come someone hasn't come along and scooped you up? Trust me, they try to scoop me up, okay? They try to scoop me up with their codependency and their daddy issues and all their things. They try to scoop me up, and I don't want that in my life, okay? So I don't go deep. What I will do is just blame it on the fact that I am busy, right? So I'll just say I'm extremely busy, which is true. So I feel okay telling them that because it's not a lie. But you have to understand, I see things the exact opposite of what the mainstream sees. I fundamentally disagree with public schools. I fundamentally disagree with universities and higher education. I disagree with the entire medical system. I disagree with the two-party political system. I disagree with organized religion. I disagree with parenting. I disagree with mainstream nutrition. I disagree with mainstream fitness, right? I disagree with mainstream investing strategies and finance. I disagree with 9-to-5 jobs, right? So it's really tricky. I literally look at data and I do the exact opposite of all the people that I see who are miserable, right? So, but there are very few people that you can have this conversation with, and I never want to throw this in people's faces or tell them they're doing things wrong. So there are very few people that you can actually talk to who will be comfortable with you telling them that you think everything they've chased their entire life in hopes of finding happiness will not only not make them happy, but it will probably make them depressed. It's very hard to tell people that. It's very hard to tell people that you don't want a relationship because you don't want codependency and you think that most people are codependent. I think literally from Disney movies to Grey's Anatomy is teaching you to be a codependent. Every single thing you see, murder mysteries, all based on love, right? Disney movies, love from the time you're a little person. This is rose-colored glasses. This is this feeling of like, guys, if you meet a person, you shouldn't not be able to sleep because you're thinking of them. You shouldn't not be able to focus on your work because you're thinking of them. You shouldn't miss them so much that you feel like crying and your stomach hurts when they're not around, right? The healthiest married couples don't miss each other because you're fulfilled and you're doing things in life. You choose to be with one another. That is healthy. Two whole people that choose to spend time together. My hula hoop and your hula hoop can intersect and we can share that portion of our hula hoops. You can't climb in my hula hoop. No, right? I can only give to you from my saucer is another way to look at it. You have 2 cups, 2 saucers. My cup must be full and overflowing. I can give to you from my saucer. You cannot pull out of my cup to fill your half-empty cup. And this is what codependency is. This idea of you complete me. Before I met you, I was nothing. That's codependency. But that's what we teach as love. So the thing about this is statistics actually back me up here. It's a lot like nutrition. So if we look at pharmaceutical drugs, like I think it's 72 or 73% of adults are on a pharmaceutical drug for mental health. Most of those being SSRIs or anti-anxiety medications. And then the crazy statistic that I cite that's actually going to be posted on Instagram, this is its own video, is in America, there's this staggering statistic that the safer the neighborhood you live in and the higher your income level, the more likely you are to kill yourself. The safer the neighborhood you live in and the more money you make, the more likely you are to kill yourself. The divorce rate is hands down well over 60%. And that doesn't include all of the miserable couples who refuse to get divorced for philosophical reasons or religious reasons or money reasons or whatever. So that's just the 60% that fail are only the ones that we know about, right? That doesn't include miserable married couples. How many of us know miserable married couples that love to talk shit about each other when they're not around, right? So this is not a fluke, everybody. What I'm saying is me and this other entrepreneurial person, we've ditched the mainstream, and that's okay. If you're doing things that make you happy that are traditional, that's amazing. I want you to be honest. If you're super happy, that's great, right? But I don't really go down this road a lot with people because I don't want to just, when you're at a party and someone comes up to you and they want to tell you all the ways in which their life is amazing. Oh my God, Justin, you just don't know how amazing it is to have found your soulmate. And you'll never know the love of having a child. And oh my God, it's so beautiful. We share everything and we're together all the time. We share a Facebook account and blah, blah, blah. And they love to just spew this stuff at you. But they don't realize that that's their own ego talking and they're looking for validation from me. They're trying to validate their decisions through me. They want me to be like, oh my God, you're so right. That sounds wonderful. Like, I love that, right? I'm not going to be the guy at the party to be like, well, actually, I disagree with everything you're saying, right? I disagree with you. I disagree with marriage and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to do that. I don't feel the need to spew my ego because I just don't feel that, right? So you have to understand that I'm operating off of data here, and I'm operating off the fact that I've been in really toxic relationships because I was a party like a rock star, heavy drinking musician for a lot of years. I've been a professional musician for 17 years. I've been in a lot of toxic relationships. I've dated the Hooters calendar girls and the Instagram models and all this, right? I've been there, guys. Everything that I talk to you about, I talk about from a place of experience, right? All of my wisdom has been gained through experience. So if anybody here thinks I know anything about nutrition or fitness, that's wisdom through experience. That's the way that I get all my experience. So I don't give a crap what school a doctor went to. I don't care. That's all theoretical, right? So I gain wisdom through experience. Now, that said, I also view the world a very different way because I have explored consciousness on such a deep level. Like I've traveled around to different continents and worked with shamans in the jungle. And, it's like when I talk to people about psychedelics, I don't think that my approach of like rejecting the mainstream is probably not for everybody. And me telling someone, hey, I disagree fundamentally with everything that you do in your life, some people can handle that conversation and actually have a great, respectful conversation with me. Some people, that will break their brain. Some people can't handle it. They will actually go mad. If they start questioning all of the decisions that they've made, they can go mad. And the reason why I tell you this from experience is because I know what it's like to go mad, right? Because I have explored consciousness and psychedelics so deeply that I can tell you that I have actually lost my mind. And I've been in situations. Here's the way I'll explain it to you. I have spent hours of my life 100% convinced, knowing with every ounce of my bones that every single person I have ever loved has never existed, that I've made them up in my head and I will never see them again. And I've lived in these places of altered consciousness for hours that felt like decades. So I'm telling you that I don't think psychedelics are for everybody. They're for a very specific type of person, right? If you have like multiple personality disorder or some kind of bipolar or something, psychedelics can be very dangerous for you because when you lose grasp of reality, and I was dumb enough to do these things alone, which I really don't recommend. It takes a particularly strong mind to get out of something like that. And it's hell. You can live in hell. I'm probably scaring you guys right now, but yeah. So this is the thing: is I've just gone to such places where I know exactly who I am. I know exactly what I want out of life. I know what makes me happy. I know that a life of service makes me happy. Helping other people makes me happy. Work is not work for me. I don't hate my job. I wake up every day excited. I only do things that I want to do. Right? I make sources of income from things that are hobbies. I take hobbies and I monetize them. If I find somebody who's the same way, who's this independent, who thinks of the world the same way, then yeah, I'm sure I'll probably end up in a long-term relationship at some point. May even end up married at some point. I can tell you that I will never end up legally married. I don't think I will ever be married under the United States law or tax code or anything like that. I really disagree with that. But yeah, I think it's just important to define your own version of normal, right? So for me, like I think of the 9 to 5, right? All right, put it this way. I think that the American dream made sense when it was 1942. Like the American dream made a ton of sense for our grandparents, right? In 1942, you were basically destined to be born and live and die just a few blocks from where you grew up, like all the same place. You live and die in the same place. You're gonna meet Judy from down the street and you meet her in 3rd grade and you grow up and have 8 kids, There was no Google, there was no social media. You were just blissfully ignorant to anything outside of your own belief system, right? Like happiness was easy back then because you were blissfully ignorant to anything that wasn't your already belief system. But survival was a lot tougher. Like work was a necessity, like factory work, hard labor, reading maps to get around in your car, like having to drive to your friend's house to see if they were home, right? Things were just different then. This American dream thing kind of made sense. Survival was tougher. Now, we live in this life of abundance and luxury that actually makes happiness a lot harder. Because in today's society, you could be sitting in a cubicle, working a 9 to 5 that pays well and gives you 401k and health benefits, but you know in the back of your head that your job really doesn't impact the world in any meaningful way. This is not what you dreamed for yourself when you were 5 years old. It's not what you dreamed for yourself when you were 13 years old, right? So you're sitting in this cubicle, you don't need to be there, you're expendable in this job position, and then you're on Instagram and you see all the booty models and all the 6-pack abs and people popping bottles in the club and all the entrepreneurs, and then you see Justin running Clovis and swimming with elephants in Thailand and doing jujitsu on different continents and in the Peruvian jungle, right? And you realize there's this whole world out there that you're not seeing. That didn't exist before today. These are uniquely challenging things that we have today in society that we've never had before. There's no book to tell you how to get through this social media challenge. There's no book teaching you how to do this. There's no book teaching you that everything we might think we know about love is wrong because we raised people to be little tiny codependent addicts. We don't know these things now. The spread of information has changed everything. Do you guys know where marriage comes from? Religion has never been a part of marriage. Marriage has always just been legal. It was literally for families to build bigger monopolies. They had laws against monopolies and certain amounts of land ownership. So one big rich family, multi-billion-dollar family, would say, we want to own more land and they won't let us. So our son's going to marry your daughter, and then our families can come together, and our monopoly gets bigger. This was a legal contract. That's all that marriage was. There was no religion in it, nothing. None of that actually existed, right? Marriage was made to own more property. And it was very well known that love didn't exist inside of marriage. Love was to be found in extramarital affairs. Love was found in mistresses. Love was found in adultery. Love and passion was found in adultery. You were home with your husband or your wife because this was your business partner. So that's the thing. It's just like the red meat. When somebody screams at you saying red meat's going to kill you, you know this person has no idea about red meat. They don't know what they're talking about. So a lot of these people come to me to tell me about the beauty and sanctity of marriage, and you need to get married under the eye of the Lord and make these commitments and all these things. I'm like, I don't think that you know at all what you're talking about. And that's okay. I never judge somebody for saying things that they don't know, right? Like, I'm not mean to people that think red meat is bad for them. I just kind of smile and nod and go, okay, thank you. I thank you for this conversation. I appreciate it. I could point you in the directions of some research that you should maybe look at, but I don't even do that because I don't want to get into that big debate and argument, It's just really crazy. So yeah, I'm ranting now. I'm sorry. I love these conversations. These are like the conversations I want to have all the time. And I've actually had this conversation with a good number of people over the last few weeks, because this seems to be a very, very common problem among entrepreneurs, among particularly young, what we would call high performance entrepreneurs. So I'm just now comfortable with calling myself a high performance person after 17 plus years of entrepreneurship. I started my first company out of my locker in school when I was 15 years old. I started my first touring band when I was 13 years old. So I've just always had this kind of built into my DNA, but I'm just now comfortable. And I do a lot of practice with things like self-love and inner child work and traditional therapy. And like I said, I've done the psychedelics and everything. And I journal every day and 2 times a day of meditation. And I'm huge about self-care. I'm meticulous about this. But I've had to go really, really deep to even be comfortable calling myself a high-performance person. I just thought that was arrogant, and no arrogance was ever allowed. You must be humble, humility, and all these things. But what I have found is the more I try to squeeze myself into the mainstream, the further away from happiness and fulfillment and passion and purpose I get. I can tell you right now, if I was in, a mainstream setting, and keep in mind, like, most of my family is in mainstream settings and the people that I care about the most, right? If I were in their shoes, Clovis wouldn't exist. I can tell you 100% Clovis wouldn't exist. My dueling piano company wouldn't exist. My home would not be an Airbnb. I would not have been to 6 countries this year like I have been. I wouldn't know half the people that I know all around the world. I wouldn't know them. My life would be completely different, right? Now, there are some people that would happily trade all those things that I just mentioned to be like, yeah, I got 3 kids and a white picket fence and a Chevy Suburban and a 4,000 square foot house, and I got to work my ass off to pay for those things, but it's totally worth it to me to live in the cul-de-sac. That's awesome. You do you. That's fantastic. I love that, right? I'm never going to tell you you're wrong. I'm not. But if you have all those things and you're popping an SSRI and you and your husband haven't slept in the same bed in 10 years, and the last time you were touched in an intimate way is too long ago for you to remember, you got to start thinking about things, So maybe we'll end it there, I guess. I'm sorry, I don't want to be negative here, but I just want people to understand these things. That sometimes you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and you may have been trying to fit a square peg in a round hole for 40 years, and you are not too old to start over. You are not too old to quit your job and start an online company. You are not too old to start working out. You're not too old to start doing yoga or start doing gymnastics or start going to local meetups. You're not too old to read a book about your inner child and start loving yourself. If you want a recommendation on inner child work, I can give you workbooks and books, because I've had to do a lot of this, because self-love was one of the most challenging things I've ever had in my life. I have not loved myself for my entire life. So yeah, you got to figure these things out for yourself. You got to get there. And I feel like I'm getting there every day, and I work at it every day, and it's fulfilling, So I'm not just going to numb. I'm just going to numb myself, right? I'm not going to just settle down with somebody, live a particular kind of life, come home and have 3 drinks every night so I can fall asleep in front of the TV and just tell myself the American dream is living up to everything I thought it would. That's not me, right? But it might be you. If that makes you happy, totally cool, right? So it's just a matter of people being honest with themselves, with their definition. What's your definition of happy? I had a friend today that was confiding in me that she's so afraid of failure. And I said, failure by whose standards? It's a young girl. She's made a ton of money, went through traditional, 9-to-5 jobs, 401k, health benefits, working 100 hours a week, blew out her adrenals, was super stressed, hated her job, but bought property and did really well, just got a great cash out, just made some crazy money, made some really good money. And now the world is her oyster. She, wants to move, doesn't know where to go. She's like, I don't know what city's right for me. I don't know what to do. And I'm just so afraid of failure. And I just said, redefine this. Whose failure are you talking about? What? This isn't failure. Whose failure exactly are you talking about? This is amazing. The world is literally endless possibilities. You can do anything you want. You can get a plane right now and go to any country you want and stay there as long as you want. You don't need to work right now. You could go travel the world for a year and be a vagabond and live out of a tent if you want to. Or you could go to Croatia or Thailand, or these places that I've been to, and live lavishly like a king for $2,000 a month, right? Failure by whose standards? Because we never look at the people who are in the 4,000 square foot house with the white picket fence, the 2.5 kids, the Chevy Suburban, a mortgage that they can't afford, that they're working 100 hours a week to pay for, that they're on an antidepressant, their husband's having an affair, blah, 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 blah. But they have the big house, the big Chevy Suburban, they have the kids, they have the perfectly manicured lawn and the HOA. So we never think of them as failed. We never see that as failure because they have the imagery of the American dream. You see? It's optics. They have the optics of happiness. So we would never consider them a failure, ever. But you come across a 33-year-old man or woman, my friend is 33 as well. You come across a 33-year-old who had a career as a professional musician for 17 years, paid all his bills through music for 17 years, right? One of the best dueling piano players in the world, arguably, right? I did it for downtown Nashville for 10 years, which is the best dueling piano playing club in the world, right? I've done reality TV, put out original albums, all these things. I own Clovis. I own a new nutrition brand I'll talk to you guys about at some point. I own rock and roll pianos. I still do gigs. Bought some real estate, right? All these fun things, traveled the world, met all these amazing people, started Clovis. Thousands of people tune in. My podcast done over 60,000 downloads. I'm pretty proud of that, right? But people will hone in and go, aren't you lonely? Lonely? What are we talking about? That's how stuck people get in one way of doing things. You look at this person who has done these things that on paper are pretty cool. I've done some cool stuff, but it becomes this like, oh yeah, but he's single. Poor thing. Oh my goodness. It must just be terrible. Let me tell you right now, traveling the world single is not terrible, okay? It's not for everybody, but it's not terrible. Just tell you guys that, right? It's 9:22 now, and I've officially ranted and told you a whole bunch of stuff, right? What do we got here? Let's take some comments, and then we'll jump out of here. Megan, secular society does twist what marriage should be, and I do agree that marriage shouldn't be based on just lovey-dovey stuff. Actually, biblically based marriage is actually a beautiful thing where two people do complement each other by fulfilling their separate roles they are meant for. The Bible lays out the boundaries of these roles and how a marriage can be a beautiful gift in life. Many people just don't take the time to study the Bible. 100% correct. Yes. The biblical idea of marriage is completely different from what we see in society today. And what's also odd to me is that very non-religious people still get married in churches. I've never understood that. They try to appease their parents or whatever they're doing. It's completely different from what the Bible says, 100%. Now, remember, I was raised Christian. I consider myself a devout, born-again Christian for a very long time. I do not see myself that way anymore. My dad is the most devout and properly living, I would say, born-again Christian I've ever met. He's just a beautiful man and has taught me all about, the biblical ideas of marriage and what marriage should be and all that. Now that's not what we have in America today. It's not. So you're correct, Megan, 100%. There's a lot of people that think of marriage as one way that do not know the biblical side of things as well. And remember, human beings, also, if you were to go back in times of the Bible or earlier, right? Let's say we go back to times where we lived in small communities, right? Much smaller communities. We didn't have the 24/7 news cycle of 7 billion people all around the world. That wasn't a thing. So if you'd like, there's a great book called Mating in Captivity that I think everybody should pick up by Esther Perel. And she explains this idea that once upon a time, different roles in our lives were filled by the entire tribe, right? There was a medicine man, there was the big bad hunter, there was, the elderly woman that was like the wisest old woman that could help with things or whatever. Like everybody raised each other's kids, everybody helped each other. There were all these different roles fulfilled by multiple different people. Now in 2019, we're more isolated than we've ever been. We live in these big, beautiful houses all alone, our family, lock the doors, everybody stay out. So you're expecting all of these roles that used to be filled. Like if you're married and you're a girl and you don't have a bunch of girlfriends that you see regularly away from your husband, got to rethink that. If you're married and you're a dude and you don't have guy time with your brothers or your cousins or your friends or whatever, right? All of these different roles can't be filled by the same person. You're asking way too much of that individual. It's just not possible. So that's the thing. There are roles to be filled, but yes, all of the roles that required in your life to make you a happy whole person, all those roles that you need in your life can't be filled by one person. That you're setting anybody up for failure. Even the most high performance person on earth can't do that, right? You got to make yourself happy first, and then go out and talk to others as well for different roles in life. So now you get your information fix from this guy named Justin on the Clovis Culture podcast, who's a total weirdo, right? There you go. I can fill a role for you. That's cool. I hope I can. All right, so I think that's it. This one's gone long, but sorry about all the technical difficulties. That really almost never happens. I've had a couple other times in early on AMAs. I thought I had this all sorted out, but I was thinking about this today because the power actually went out earlier, and I was like, man, if the power went out during a Facebook Live, that would really suck because it turns the router off, you know? So the internet's beautiful. I love that I get to talk to you like this as if you're hanging out in my kitchen with me, but also it has its troubles, so obviously got booted off for a second. I will edit it down. This will all go out as one big, long audio post on the podcast, so it'll all be chopped up. None of that nonsense will be in there. This will probably go as 2 Facebook Live videos on the Facebook page, and obviously this all goes to YouTube. Go check out YouTube. There's a bunch of great playlists there. There's a whole red meat playlist. If you want to learn about the red meat playlist, there's another playlist called Your Kids Are a Science Experiment on youtube.com/the Clovis Culture. I'm super, super proud of that Your Kids Are a Science Experiment playlist. That's super important. Click the happy button, click the like button, click the love button, click all the buttons, share this, tag your people if you want them to see it. If somebody needs to hear a little bit about marriage from a guy with a unique point of view on this, tag them. Also these shirts, if you want this shirt and you have had your life changed by Clovis, just let me know. And I need to get that video from you. I shared a link. I'll put that in the show notes. I'm going to share this in all the groups and everything. So just to recap this episode, I need some help from you guys. Clovis is growing in a big way. You're going to see a lot of things happening. The Clovis Challenge launches in October. That's a 21-day program, the Clovis Challenge. That's going to bring a lot more people in. That's going to be great. So you can check that out. Just a lot of things happening. Subscribe to the Clovis Culture podcast. Leave me a review on iTunes, please. If you leave me a 5-star review, I will send you sample packs. That's still a deal. If you leave me a 5-star review on iTunes, I will send you free sample packs of the paleo powder. And yeah, I think you guys will love it. Great comments here. Thank you guys so much. You have us, Judy. I know I'm super thankful for that every day. Love my Clovis family. Kimberly, they have no idea that's true. You got to be your own person first. Yes, people parrot that a lot, but I think a lot of people think they're their own person and haven't done the deep work to understand what that really means, right? Megan, great talk. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Judy, thank you. Thank you. Kimberly, thank you. Love open-minded conversations. Literally what I live for. If I could just pick one thing that would be my job for the rest of my life, it would just be podcast conversations, preferably in person, but podcast conversations with really open-minded people. That if I could pick one thing, like what would be my passion project, it would just be that. So I am working towards that in the back end, getting Clovis to be a bit more self-sustaining so I can actually make more content. Believe it or not, I know I make a shitload of content, but I want to make more content for you guys, particularly more conversation-based content. Denise, you are extremely insightful. Thank you very much. Again, guys, Clovis is just my journey of self-exploration. And I was very fortunate to have a level of talent that got me through life in a way that gave me a lot of free time. So in the 6 years since I've been really studying things like biochemistry, I was able to work 2 gigs a week. So I was basically working somewhere between 6 and 8 hours a week, just Friday and Saturday nights. So maybe 4 hours on Friday, 4 hours on Saturday type thing, and pay all my bills. So I was able to devote Sunday through Friday basically just to study. And that study has been everything from traditional medicine to Chinese medicine to Ayurvedic medicine to biochemistry to psychedelics to bouncing around to multiple different continents to fitness to gymnastics to martial arts to weapons and pistols and AR-15s and the big scary guns that everyone's afraid of and all the things that I've just done an immense amount of training and researching and reading, and speed reading was huge for me. Like I said, I ended up taking a speed reading course, and then from then on out was reading about 4 books at a time. I was just devouring books. When I'm driving, I'm listening to Audible books, or I'm listening to podcasts, or I'm taking free courses on Coursera or Khan Academy, and constantly just learning as much as I can. So this level of insight, thank you very much. Denise, that's a huge compliment for me, really. Thank you very much for calling me insightful. I appreciate that. It's just me sharing my life. And if you guys ever come to me with a question about a particular thing that I have not explored, I'm just going to tell you I haven't explored it. I shared with you a bit about my philosophy on lying. I do not accept dishonesty in my life. I don't accept it. So if somebody is dishonest to me, I will write them off very quickly. And myself personally, I hold myself to a very high standard there. So if you come to me and you ask me for my opinion on something, and I'm not well researched in that opinion, the first thing that I tell you is I have not done enough research to have a valid opinion on this, but I kind of think X, Y, Z, right? So if I give you an opinion on something, it's because I have gone deep. I'm telling you right now, and I can say that with the utmost confidence because I've talked to enough thousands of people all around the world that I've met on my crazy time on this planet. Not a lot of people do a lot of deep work for their opinions. So anyway, that's it. Let's end it there. Thank you so much, Denise. Again, that really means the world to me. That makes me feel super good. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go get in the infrared sauna and turn off your lights and put on some blue blocker glasses, get off the screens, and get some deep sleep, everybody. Love you very much. Thank you for letting me do this. This will be out on the Clovis Culture Podcast. Go to clovis.show, check out all the things. I'll be hitting you up in the groups tomorrow for testimonies, okay? I need your help. Thank you guys so much. AMA number 83. I don't even know what I'm gonna call this one. This one's crazy, right? All right, I'm out of here. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.